Hello everyone, it's Kari and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a 2-for-1 basically. I'm going to be using the same die on both cards, and it's going to be featuring the new die from Simmons' stamp called Sunflower Stem, as well as this stamp set here from Simmons' stamp Greetings One Mix. And I just recently picked these up here the last week or so, and I thought I'd create some cards with them for you today. I've gone ahead and created my card bases, and I've die cut my flowers out of some clean white cardstock, and I'm going to get two different looks out of these dies today. So I went ahead and die cut them both. I got four altogether die cuts, but I am taking this one that's got the petals still in it, and I've placed some foam adhesive on the back, and I'm going to kind of bump this up on the other die cut that's die cut the same way. First, I'm going to just stack my die cuts without the petals. This is kind of a tedious process only because it is such a fine detailed die or die cut, and so you need a good liquid glue for this. And I really do like this nozzle on this glue for such things like this, and so it kind of takes a little bit extra time to do it, but it's well worth it. Once you have all of your die cuts, they're stacked. You can do as many as you want. I only did 2 on this one, and then 2 on the other one as well. But you could definitely create some dimension by cutting like 4 to 5 die cuts and stacking them. I am going to also add a subtle background to my card bases. This is the My Favorite Things Scattered Surface Background stamp. This is one of my favorites because it's, it just gives it something something to the background, and it actually makes a huge difference in the way the card looks, but it's such a simple background and I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorites of all time from My Favorite Things. So I'm going to ink up first my Peacock. I'm going to get this ink all over to the background, and then I was kind of pointing up at the very, very top, you will see there's like a little foot. That's my Gracie. She's sitting on the craft table with me today and kind of hanging out. So I'm just carefully kind of probably doing this on the harder way of probably than I should. But I'm just taking a cloth here and making sure that I don't get any ink on my fingers, and really making sure that I get a good impression on my cardstock of my background. And I'm going to do the very same thing with my other cardstock. This is from the cardstock that this is I think it's called Marshmallow Chick, I believe. It's from Basil. I have a little stack of Basil cardstock in my stash, and it's really good and thick and a really heavy weight. So I'm trying to use it up and get rid of it. So, but also the other one, if I didn't mention it before, the other one is Fawn Mermaid cardstock, but I'm using the Peacock ink to add color to it. So I've gone ahead and chosen 2 different sentiments from the stamp set that I showed before, and I'm going to use the Peacock ink from Fawn, ink this up. This is the one that says, "Today will be awesome." And I like these bigger sentiments that really fill up an area of a card. And I'm going to ink this up one more time since it is a brand new stamp, but I have never used it before. I'm going to ink it up one more time. I did stamp the other one about 3 times to get a really good impression, but that's the benefit of the MISTI. I'm just kind of, on next one, I'm going to just kind of use my flower as placement to make sure that I get my next sentiment that I want to put on this card in the right area. So I kind of fiddled it with it for a little bit, but that's what I do. I kind of edit out the excess of this stuff so you don't have to sit there and watch it and get bored. But I'm going to be using Carrot ink from Fawn to ink up this one as just the same as I did the background. And like I said, this one I went ahead and stamped 3 times with my MISTI just to make sure I got a really bold, crisp impression of this sentiment, and it really stood out from the cardstock. Since I'm not using any other layers or anything, I really wanted to make sure that I had a really good bold sentiment and that it really stood out from the card. And the whole idea behind these cards, really, you guys, is going back to really simple card making. And using products like this from Someone Says Stamp really does help with that. So whenever I am struggling with my creativity, this is kind of the thing that I gravitate toward, is just simple, you know, maybe die cuts and a sentiment, and it's good to go. So I have gone ahead and added my die cuts to my card bases. And to add a little bit more depth to my card base, I'm going back to old school here and taking my ink pad that I've been using all this time and just taking an ink blending tool and really adding some ink to the edges of my cardstock. And it really does make a huge difference, especially on a very simple card like this, because it adds a little bit of dimension to the card base. And also, too, I don't know if you noticed, but I didn't get my background stamp all the way stamped on that one far right hand edge, and this also helps in that and disguise that. So if you ever deal with something like that, doing this little just inking the edges of your cardstock will kind of mask that. So that is card number 1, and I'm going to go ahead and finish up card number 2 here, and I'm just simply going to get my placement here. I've gone ahead and as you can see in the video in the beginning, I went ahead and added my foam tape here to the very back of my flowers here, and I did stack them, and I've got foam tape on one layer, and I've added that to another layer just like it, and it's really going to add a lot of dimension to this card. I didn't add any foam adhesive to the actual stem part, just the liquid glue. So now I'm just going to go ahead and press this onto my card, and some of the little die cut like pieces, like the what am I trying to say? The petals were trying to come out, so I did kind of fix that off camera, and you don't see that tedious process, but I did fix that to where they won't come out. But now I wanted to add just a little bit of shimmer to these cards, as well as do some inking on this one other card too with the same ink. And that pretty much completes these cards. Like I said, we're going back to basics today and doing some simple card making. But I think even though they are simple, I think that sometimes doing simple cards is, if that's what you're comfortable with, then by all means do that. Because it's not necessarily all about trying to make the biggest, or the more elaborate cards all the time. Which, don't get me wrong, they are absolutely beautiful, and props to those that really have the time to do those. But sometimes this is what I gravitate toward, and I think it adds, just as much of, happiness to give it to someone as if you were to give them a complicated card too. So that completes this video, guys. I truly appreciate it. All the supplies that I did use in today's cards will be listed in links below the video if you're interested in any of them. Here are some still shots of all the cards up close. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, I'd love to have you be a subscriber. Thank you all so much for watching today. I truly appreciate it, and I'll catch you all in the next video.